Big Sills! Football Friday. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you smell it? It smells like victory. One of my favorite scenes in motion picture history. Robert Duvall on the beach. Smell that? I love the smell of napalm in the morning. You know, napalm like incinerates people, right? I love the smell of napalm. You know? It smells like victory. That's kind of like where we are right now, getting ready for Monday night. Oh my God. Hey, let me throw something at you here. I can't wait to get started here. I cannot wait to get started. Lamar Jackson wins that game last night. And by the way, I'm going to throw this at you here. Joe Burrow equals Joe Namath. Joe Namath played his entire NFL career injured. And I feel Joe Burrow is going to be the next Joe Namath. He's going to pop up and win a Super Bowl. But he's going to be injured his entire career. I have never seen him not injured. I've never seen him not injured. Then you have Lamar on the other side. By the way, I'll say this to you, man. The AFC, I think it's going to come down to the war of attrition on who wins the AFC. Those were two teams last night that were falling apart in front of our eyes. Just watching those two teams, those are good football teams. Those are good football teams, and they're falling apart in front of our eyes. You know, Lamar Jackson has won 74% of his football games. 74%. He owns the NFC. As a matter of fact, do you know what the AFC is versus the NFC this year? The AFC is 31-19. You got to remember something about the NFC. You could have a bum quarterback or a substandard quarterback and be a playoff contender. You can't in the AFC. You can't. You cannot be. You can have a Josh Dobbs and be a playoff contender. Not in the AFC. That's not happening. The quarterbacks are just better. They're just better. You can have somebody like Dak and Josh Dobbs, Sam Howell, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr. You can have all them bums. You can't have that over on the other side of the aisle. There's just better football teams. And they beat up on one another each week, week in and week out. You're playing against the elite quarterbacks in the sport. In the NFC, you're not. It's no shit. Look, the Eagles aren't out. You can have Brock Purdy and win. You know, it's funny when you look at, could Brock Purdy do what he's doing in the AFC? I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, I don't. I know in the NFC you really don't have a lot of competition. But hey, the Eagles are an outlier. It's not a rip on them. They take care of business. They kill those teams. Are they more like an AFC team? Yeah. So it's not really shade. It's no shade on them. It's absolutely no shade. I'm saying the NFC sucks. And the Eagles have the least amount of resistance to get to the Super Bowl than you do over in the AFC side. It's like the SEC over there. Harder to win the SEC than it is the national championship. You really don't have any competition but San Francisco and maybe Dallas. When you play week in and week out on the AFC side, when you watch a game like last night, that's going to, again, like I said, I think it's going to come down to the war of attrition. 31-19, the AFC is versus the NFC this year. That's kicking the shit out of your teams. Shit, Lamar Jackson's got some psychotic record versus NFC teams. Hey, get this. Let's put this out there. Okay? Let's put this out there. Aaron Rodgers beat up on what? The Bears? And who else that was in that? The shitty Detroit Lions. and he put together like a really great win percentage. And they kind of went back and forth and ping pong with the Vikings, right? Lamar Jackson has won 74% of his games in the AFC North. Think of that. AFC North, he's won 74% of his games. Okay? Those teams are great, man. Okay? It's crazy. The Lions, Aaron Rodgers. Hey, for the record, Tom Brady beat up on a shitty AFC East. Who was a really good team in the AFC East during the Brady reign? Kind of the Jets for a few years. The Dolphins that one season when Brady got hurt. So sometimes records are not what they are. You play a better form of competition in the AFC on a weekly basis. Week to week, you're playing one of the elite guys, or what you guys call elite. I think there's only one elite quarterback in the NFL. You play elite talent on that side of the aisle. There's no elite talent on the NFC side except for Jalen Hurts. That's not elite talent. He's really good. He's in the land of really good. The rest of them, outside of Hurts, who in the NFC at quarterback do you go, that guy's great? Or he has elite talent. Who? Name me one. What guy take Jalen Hurts. Hey, let's do this. Let's take Jalen Hurts out of the NFC. Who would you rank as the number one NFC? This will tell you all you need to know. Who would you rank right now if you take Hurts out of the conversation as the top quarterback in the NFC? Tell me who you think the top quarterback is in the NFC. Dak? Jared Goff. That's all you need to know. Jared Goff is the top quarterback in the NFC outside of Jalen Hurts, right? Whew. Man, holy shit. That's quite a cliff dive compared to what you got over on that other side of the aisle. There's a rookie that's playing in Houston that would be the second best quarterback in the NFC if he played in that conference. Least amount of resistance to get to the Super Bowl is on the NFC side, and the Eagles have taken complete advantage of that. Again, it's not shade. But your 8-1 record is not what you think it is compared to a 6-3 AFC team. 31-19, and I'm going to make another point here in a minute. You don't really play anybody over in that. You don't play a quarterback that can beat you. You play a quarterback every week that can beat you in there. Like, you can't go 5-5 and think you're going to make the playoffs. Shit, the Bucs are still in the playoff race. Again, this is not shade. Because Philly has won the guys that are in front of them. You could take it that way, and if you do, that's a you thing, not me. I'm looking at things fairly here. That's like telling me back, like in college, because some of you like to use the college terminology and apply it to the NFL. That's like saying a shitty team in the Big 12 who goes undefeated is the same ranking and has the same preparation to play for championship games as an undefeated team in the Southeastern Conference. That's ridiculous. That's why the NFL is a week-to-week proposition. Okay? If I'm Jalen Hurts, I'm going to kick the NFC's ass for the next. Yes. He can own the conference. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles can own the conference for the next 10 years until they get someone traded into the conference, someone that can compete against. Nobody can compete against Jalen right now. He has no competition. Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. Lamar Jackson has Burrow, Mahomes, Stroud, Lawrence, Herbert, Allen. Go down the list. You're playing against Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, and Brock Purdy. Again, not shade on Jalen. Jalen can't help that the NFC. This stuff goes in trends. And it just goes in cycles. Some years the NFC will have the best quarterback. Some years the AFC will. Right now, the AFC. It's not the Eagles can't control that the other teams in the NFC. Do you know Kyler Murray might be the third best quarterback in the NFC right now? He might actually be the third best. I mean, the Eagles can't do anything about you can't draft a quarterback or you can't sign a quarterback. This is nothing about that. But when you guys keep talking to me about records, you're in the shittiest conference in the NFL. Because the teams in the conference, you can have a Josh Dobbs and still be in it. You can't have Josh Dobbs in the AFC and be a playoff contender. Josh Dobbs is not carrying a team. Well, watch what that Cleveland thing does. Not a chance in hell. Whoever the guy is that they're going to put in there, not a chance in hell that Cleveland's going to. Cleveland was actually trending up, I thought. Okay? 11 actually is trying to debate that the NFC has better quarterbacks than the AFC. They're 31-19. They beat the piss out of that conference. They beat the piss out of them. And you're going to put up bigger numbers and better stats in the NFC. You're not really playing against anybody. Again, this is not an Eagle rip. This is an NFL rip. You don't have latitude. You can't put Josh Dobbs on an AFC team and win a playoff spot. It's not going to work. Okay? Look at what Anthony says. So what happens if we beat the Chiefs? I said this doesn't apply to you. Did you not hear me? I said the Eagles were an outlier. Once again, Anthony thinks I'm putting the Eagles in that conversation of all the shitty teams in the NFC with the shitty quarterbacks. I never said that. I never said that. You ain't 8-1 in the AFC, I'll tell you that. Okay? Yeah, whatever, guy. By the way, that was Tone's take, and I happen to agree with Tone's take. 10 years? What quarterback do you see over in the NFC right now that's going to put a team on their back and carry them to a Super Bowl and really give Jalen Hurts competition? That guy's not in the league yet. And he's surely nowhere to be seen in the upcoming draft. Caleb Williams? Good luck. Draft him. Good luck. Hey, Ruiz goes, the AFC sucks balls. Really? They kicking the shit out of the NFC this year. Lamar owns the NFC. Every time he lines up against an NFC, and by the way, Tone had one of the best takes 2 weeks ago. That's the kind of team you don't want to see in a Super Bowl because he's multi-talented, and being able to cover a guy like that might be a challenge. You don't have a guy in the NFC like Lamar Jackson, except for maybe Kyler Murray. You don't have a guy like that. And again, it's okay. Look at how some of you take a comment about me taking a shit on the rest of the league and not the Eagles, and you think that I'm applying that to Philly too. Where did you get that? You take care of business. By the way, I'm not compromising my take here by coming around and making you feel better about yourself. The NFC blows. Compared to, Jalen has no contemporary in the NFC. He has no contemporary. When you go through the playoffs in the NFC right now, what is that? So I guess what the first round would be in the wild card as of right now, CJ Stroud would take on Lamar Jackson. Over in the NFC, you would have Josh Dobbs versus Jared Goff. Okay? Right. Then you would have, right now, the Browns aren't going to make it. I think another team, you would have, the Browns are in it right now, but that was because Deshaun Watson had just beaten the Ravens. that thing's going to fall off. And then you're going to have to take on Trevor Lawrence. The Browns aren't going to continue to win. You got Dak versus Purdy. I guess okay. I mean, Bengals, the Colts would be the 3rd seed right now. The Colts would be the 3rd seed in the NFC. Anyway, let's do this. Our good friend Tone is going to join us at 3:30 as he always does for our segment. Jason Cole, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, and Yahoo Sports will join us at 4:30 as he always does. Philly Godfather is kicking ass. Okay? He'll join us at 5:30. Jesus goes, I love when doofuses think Hurts got punked. When friends are competitive, that's what happens. But Niner fans don't have friends. Jalen Hurts getting punked? When was that? Purdy can win by check. That's not my point. Okay? That's not my point here. You got the AFC is having a spectacular year versus the NFC. Okay? Now, let's get into the topics here. We're going to look at week 11 here in a minute. Also, by the way, our good friends at Hooters. Guys, do me a favor. Be on the lookout for a code word. My friend Tone will throw that code word out. You'll see it throughout the 4 hours of the program. All you do is have to email us your information at dansilioshow@gmail.com. You can win yourself some gift certificates, potentially get some merchandise. Football Monday, we will name your name if you are so named that winner. And we look forward to that. You'll see that code word throughout the entire 4 hours of the program. And we look forward to that and you guys being able to be part of our great program here. And that's all with our good friends at Hooters and also at JAKIB here. All right. Let me ask the question here to you. What team has played a better schedule that will prepare them for Monday's game? Eagles or Chiefs? I looked at it pretty closely. Overall record, 40-35 teams that the Chiefs have played. They've played 4 playoff teams. The Eagles, 35-40 is the record of the combined teams. That's not glaring. It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same. I'm not but here. They've played against 3 teams that have winning records. The Chiefs have played 4 playoff teams. And again, Goff, Lawrence, Wilson, Herbert, Tua. The Chiefs have played. The Eagles have played. I'm going to put Cousins in there because I think Cousins was having a great year. When you guys played Minnesota, Cousins was in the building, right? It wasn't Dobbs, right? Tua and Dak. The rest of them were bums. Who's better prepared for Monday? Who's more battle-tested for Monday's game? Eagles or Chiefs? Cousins was healthy. Kurt was great in that game against Philly, actually. He was really good. So I put him on that list. I thought Kurt played great in that game. I don't even think he threw a pick in that game. Who's more prepared for this game Monday and having played against tougher competition? I think it's easy. It's the Chiefs. You know, you look at who you've played, how you've played. Now, I will say this to you about the Eagles, and the one thing that I think helps them as they get ready for Monday, I think they've had to battle more. I think they've had to overcome more. Man, I'll tell you what, that defense at the beginning of the season, that thing looked like it had an oil leak. I mean, that thing looked like the Exxon Valdez on how bad that thing was leaking. And you're going like this, man. I mean, Does that harden you? I think it does. Because, again, your margin of error was not great like it was a year ago. You were complete a year ago. You're not complete this year. You're like the rest of the teams in the NFL now. Last year, you were not like the rest of the teams. You were a complete ball team. As a matter of fact, the only thing that needed to be more mature when it came to his play was the quarterback. And that evolved as the year went on. It totally evolved. Remember something. As much as you guys like to crown Jalen last year, in September of last year, in 22, there were still question marks on what the Eagles were going to do at quarterback. As that thing went through the year, it ended it. It totally ended it. That's why they went and got 2 1s. That's why they were able to do other things in the draft. Okay? Yeah, okay. RTF. You see, look, here's a guy like that'll lie to himself. The start of the 2022 season, you really believe that the Eagles thought Jalen Hurts was the future quarterback of this team? You are out of your mind coming off a 9-8 season. You're out of your mind. You don't remember the conversations? Of course you don't. Of course you don't. You lie, you make things up, and you want it to fit your narrative so that your take, you talk about changing your opinion. How about ignoring what you thought initially? It's okay to change your opinion, okay, on a kid. Here, I'll give you an example of that. I'll give you an example. I don't know, Tone, maybe everybody. Do you think that Russell Wilson has changed the opinion of the Denver Broncos a little bit now on going forward with him and maybe building a team around him? After what they've seen over the last 3 months compared to what they saw last year and at the beginning of the season? Do you think that the Broncos are now pausing it like the Lions paused it? And we're thinking, God, I guess Goff is the guy. You think Russell Wilson has stopped that conversation up there where you went, we got to get out of this, man. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. And all of a sudden now, Russell Wilson makes you go like this. Okay. That's what Hurts did. And that guy's going to Canton. He's going to Canton. So it changes, actually monthly, weekly at times. Okay? Russ stinks. He's going to Hall of Fame. That's how much he stinks. He's going to the Hall of Fame. When 2022 started, Hurts had to prove he could play. That's why they drafted Smith and traded for Brown. They wanted to give Hurts a fair shot to prove he could win. If Hurts was mediocre with Brown and Smith, he would not be here. Thank God he proved otherwise. That's exactly what played out. They're not going to spend $20 million on a wide receiver and your quarterback sucks out loud. That's not going to work. They'd have moved off him in a second. By the way, your general manager had made a trade with the Seattle Seahawks. And the only reason Russell Wilson is not an Eagle is because Russ voided the deal. So stop your bullshit. Think about that. General manager in 2022 at the beginning of the season didn't want Jalen Hurts as a starting quarterback of the Eagles. But he changed his opinion so much, they signed him to a $250 million deal. Think about that. I hear Tone always talking about where his ascent has come from. I don't give a shit about Pro Bowls and wins. All I care about is what I just said. You go from a general manager having a contract on the table for Russell Wilson to sign, and they're moving off of Hurts, to where they ended up at the end of the year giving a guy in the offseason $250 million. That's all you need to know, dude. Follow the money, not the backpacks. Slapping on the back. Your general manager was moving off of Jalen Hurts. They were moving off of that. Look at this. Dion goes, never wanted Russell. Oh, you didn't want him. Okay, Dion. Your general manager did. There was a deal on the table. Right? Think of that. So when you say that I'm just throwing shit out there, your GM had a 3-year contract on the table that resembles what you have in Denver now for Russell Wilson. And it wasn't that Wilson he had a no trade. And he said no. Sills, we don't know whether the deal. They've reported they did. Wilson said it himself with the. It's a lie. You're lying. You're lying. Wow. It's okay. This is nothing. Folks, he's proven it. It's okay. He's proven it. Okay? McMullen even talks about it. No one has to lie about this. Oh, no, but because when I point out your GM didn't want Hurts and was prepared to move off him, you don't want to hear that. Because even Howie lying, yeah, well, we knew the whole time. No, you didn't. Because you put that's another thing about Howie and that whole thing with that deal here. I'll get back to my topic here. But, I mean, even Howie lies. Oh, we knew that he was going to be. No, you didn't. Because you gave Russell Wilson a contract. Oh, well, we knew. No, you didn't. You gave Wentz a contract, and then you gave Russell Wilson a contract offer. Yeah, oh, yeah, well, we're so sure. The deal was on the table. Russ said no because he didn't want to do that to Jalen. Okay. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, you know what? I don't want that $255 million. You know, I don't want to do that to Jalen. I'll get it somewhere. Dude, nobody gives a shit about the next guy when you're talking that kind. You're talking $250 million. You think I'm looking out for some dude next to me, or I give a shit about my best friend if somebody's putting $250 million of generational wealth in front of me? I could give 10 shits about my friend. Hey, man, if you're my friend, you'll understand. JoJo thinks I'm full of shit with that. Look how many people don't want to believe that deal was real. Wow. Man, I catch you guys in denial like Cowboy fans. Some of you are just pathetic. How you look at shit. It's pathetic. No wonder. I don't know how and what kind of sports talk people talk to you on a daily basis. This is not a rip. Jalen's proved it. You know how he's proved it? His direct deposits every Tuesday. That's how he's proved it. Not about getting slapped on the back about how you're a good dude and a great team leader and all that other bullshit. Bottom line, the direct deposit. Am I right, Tone? The direct deposit is all you need to have in validation. When you get that direct deposit every Tuesday and it hits your bank and you got that big $50 million paycheck coming every year, you don't need to have any other validation from some sort of media turd or anybody else. Because that's how you're gauged in this league. Not by backslaps and attaboys and good job, kid. Hey, and by the way, you know what it shows you? You guys call me, hey, how many people in here flip-flopped on Hurts? None of you. If the Eagles offered Watson a fully guaranteed, he would have chose Philly easily. People got to wake up. They think he is Cleveland. They think he is Cleveland because he likes the weather. That's right, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson would have been also in Philadelphia. Guaranteed money was what was the bribe. He got bribed to go to Cleveland. Deal was true. Russ didn't want to play here, hence why he voided it. Yeah. Yes. Now, okay, Monday night. Who has the better preparation for this game on Monday? Who's had and who is more prepared for this game on Monday? The Eagles or the Chiefs? Who's more prepared? Maurice goes, Hurts is better now. That's not the point. The deal was on the table. You're missing the entire point. In hindsight, yeah. He's not playing poorly, though. It's a cult, Dan. They gaslight your non-Eagle takes. Wow. Hold up for a second, man. Do I have a bloody nose on that one, Scooter? Because that's the facts. But that's most people. Like when I talk about the shitty NFC, that's not a positive. I think Eagles, I don't know how I said they're an outlier. They're not really part of the crappy-ass quarterbacks in the NFC. I even said that. But somehow they tied it in where I'm saying that the Eagles have played lesser competition. They have. Oh, wait. Lesser quarterbacks. Okay? Than what you do in the AFC side. That's a fact. Follow the money. Once again, follow the money. Very simple. There's not $50 million quarterbacks over on the NFC side, except two, Dak, Jalen, Murray. Who else? Follow the money. All right. Who's more prepared for this game on Monday night? Who's more prepared? Man, the Chiefs are winning ball games. They're 7-2 with nobody except Kelsey. There's two guys that are beating elite quarterbacks on a week-to-week basis. It's incredible. Like, Kansas City is not going to lose to Zach Wilson. You're going to lose to Russell Wilson. You lost to Jared Goff. Jared Goff didn't. Hey, who won that game that Monday night? Do you guys remember? Was it Goff that outplayed Mahomes when he was with the Rams? It was like 42-40. Did Mahomes win that game or was that Goff? Whatever reason, man, Jared Goff against Patrick Mahomes, he always plays well against him. I forget what the score was of that game. It was about 3 years ago. It was supposed to be that game was supposed to be played there was like fires or something in Mexico City. Weren't they supposed to play that game in Mexico? And Goff goes nuts. Both guys went for like 400 yards. It was like an insane game. Jared Goff always plays great against Patrick Mahomes. Okay? Always plays great against him. I don't know what. Yeah, it's like Eli Manning kind of shit against Brady. And I agree, Scooter. I really am starting to like Jared Goff more. Goff won that game? Man. So he's like 2-0 versus Patrick Mahomes? That's crazy. That's crazy great. That's crazy great for him. Man, I can't believe how well he plays. 2000. Oh, that's right. It was 54-51. Rams and Goff beat Mahomes and the Chiefs. In 2018, is that the year they won the Super Bowl? They won the Super Bowl that year, the Chiefs? Or is that the year that the Rams went and lost to the Patriots? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's the year that the Rams lost to the Patriots 14-13 because 17, the Eagles had beaten the Patriots. That's right. That's right. That's what that was. 17 points scored between both teams in that Super Bowl. One of the worst Super Bowls in the history of God. Okay, I think it's an interesting question on who's ready to play on Monday and who's been more prepared to play and whose season has prepared them more. I think the Eagles have had to overcome more. I do. I think they've had to overcome more. And I think it's made a medal for them. I do. I think it's made a medal for them. I think when you think about what they've had to go through defensively, new coordinators, look at all the things that you've had to fight through this year. You know what? Wouldn't we say this? The quarterbacks may not have been that great, but one of the things that I think that you're not getting credit for from enough of the people in the media, and maybe to my point also, the Eagles' biggest battle was the Eagles. New coordinators, new personnel, coming off a Super Bowl loss. I mean, look at what it did to the Falcons. The Falcons are trying to dig themselves still out of that debacle when the Patriots beat them. Look at the Rams. They've fallen apart. Look at the Bucs. They're not even close to being what they were. Look at all these teams that have won recent Super Bowls. Look at the Patriots. That's a great point. Look at all the teams that have lost Super Bowls or won Super Bowls over the last couple of years outside of the Chiefs. What's the common denominator? They all suck. They all suck. Rams, Bucs, Patriots. Not the Eagles, though. And the Eagles are taking advantage of not having great quarterbacks in that conference. However, there's been a ton of change with the Eagles. That's not the same team. That's not the same team. You got more continuity in Kansas City than what you do. I think you have more turnover in Philly, and you've had to overcome turnover. You get new bosses. What happens when you get a new boss? When you get a new boss, there's a change of philosophy. You could try to have the same culture all you want, but you got a new boss. Okay? And tone goes to D coordinators. Okay, D coordinators versus the great quarterbacks. Here, let me throw this at you here. Okay, so coaching matters in the NFL. That's not a horrible take, actually. I don't believe that that's at all. You can't say he's not right. I'm talking tone here. But what I will say is this. Coaches are not as tied to the record as you think. The quarterback is. You take a good quarterback away from Bill Belichick, he sucks. You take a quarterback away. How many? Again, that's why a guy like Shanahan, who can win with 3 different quarterbacks, that's what separates him and why people look at him as being maybe potentially the best or one of the best coaches in the National Football League, is because he did what Joe Gibbs did. Joe Gibbs won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. Okay? No coach has ever done that with 3 different guys. Nobody's won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. It's not happening. Gibbs is the only guy to do that. That shows you his genius. You take Jalen Hurts away from Nick Sirianni, everyone's saying, well, he's the best coach in the NFL. Really? You take Jalen Hurts away from him, you're telling me he's better than Belichick? Not true. That record's more tied into that position than what the head coach is. If Rex Ryan had Tom Brady and Belichick had Mark Sanchez, Bill Belichick would have been fired 15 years ago. It comes down to the quarterback in this league and finding the right combination and being able to pull the best out. That's what makes Andy Reid great. Andy Reid's a great play caller. Okay? What are we talking about? Scenarios that don't exist? What's that? What scenarios that don't exist? Anyway, Bengals are tanking? No, they're not. They're hurt. Chiefs got a Hall of Fame coach. That Hall of Fame coach would be nobody. No. If he had Alex Smith, he'd be Alex Smith. If Andy Reid had Donovan McNabb, he'd be Donovan McNabb. If Chuck Noll had Terry Bradshaw, he'd be Terry Bradshaw. And if he had Bubby Brister, he'd be Bubby Brister. There's no denying that. Every head coach that's had a superstar run in this league has had a superstar quarterback. Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil had really good quarterbacks. Then he got Kurt Warner, or he found Kurt Warner, or he fell into Kurt Warner. Burrow's out for the season. I hope that's not true, because Cincinnati's finished if that's the case. Okay? If he's out for the season, that means the Texans, in my opinion, are probably going to make the playoffs. Holy shit. What a year for C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud may just actually get his football team to the divisional round. Man, that would be insane if he was able to do that. I mean, incredible. Incredible. The coaching record that you have, it's tied to the quarterback. Okay? It's tied to the QB. It's Jalen Hurts. It really is. It's a team award, and it's the players, defense and offense, but it is the quarterback. It's not the coach, because the coach is tied to the quarterback. Man, that's torn ligament in his throwing hand. You saw that last night. Man, you just paid that guy to become the highest paid player in the National Football League. And Joe Burrow nameth. That's what he's becoming. Man, you hope that guy fulfills his destiny. But again, part of the NFL is playing every game and being healthy for every week. And if you're not, availability is going to be part of this whole thing too, dude. Mahomes, Jackson, AFC chip game. Wow. And I think Lamar can beat that team. Okay? John Madden. Let's see here. Stills always late to saying players are good like Jalen Hurts. No, never late. You got to continue to prove it every week. Okay? You got to prove it every week, dude. You don't get a lifetime tag where you're considered the best player at your position for the rest of your life, like it's a Supreme Court hiring, and you get that tag for the rest of your life. The National Football League is not only just a week-to-week conversation when it comes to teams, it's also a week-to-week conversation with players and coaches. You're evaluated every week, dude. There's a reason they keep film on it. There's a reason they evaluate you. There's a reason that they grade you. There's a reason that they talk to you at the end of the year when your player evaluation out the door, telling you what you need to do to get better. It's professional football, and every week and every day and every practice, you're evaluated. And you're either going in one direction or you're going in the other direction, like Carson Wentz. You don't get a lifetime tag on being good. People go through streaks and trends. Some guys are great for a longer period of time. Some guys are great for a shorter period of time. This is common sense, I thought, but not always the things that we talk about that are common sense are common to talk about, because most of you don't give a shit about it or understand it. But that's okay. That's kind of why I'm here also. Okay. Burrow will throw in the towel. Yeah, that's what he'll do. The highest paid player in the league. Revenge season starts Monday. Okay? Call Burrow dual threat. He's not dual threat. He's injury prone. Like your guy, Nakobe Dean. He's injury prone. Like I said about your guy Dean, he'll never be a star in Philly, ever. Damn shame. I probably think he's a good ball player. But because you suck out loud and you're horrible at drafting linebackers, you should go and get into free agency and try to sign a guy because you can't draft a guy. You're the worst at it. You can't bring a linebacker in to save your life. Get this, you get more success out of UDFAs than you do in trades than you do in the draft. But Howie recognizes his failures now. That's why he doesn't pay. You know why he doesn't pay the position? Because he knows his failures. They don't sign free agent linebackers. Why? Because the majority of them, he knows that he could get just enough out of what he needs with Zach Cunningham or Nicholas Morrow, who he cut. And that's why he goes in the draft. And if the Kobe Dean doesn't pan out or the other third round, you've had 2 third-round draft choices in a row cut that he drafted. 2 in a row. And you've had 2 middle linebackers that are UDFAs. Cunningham and TJ Edwards. Was that all you need to know, man? Our secondary might be shredded each week, but as long as we don't have 4 turnovers, we win out. I'll tell you this, Peter. The one thing, again, that I keep saying about Monday, and one thing that Eagle defense does do, you're only giving up 20 points a game. You give up 20 points a game and you average 29 points a game, and you're not giving up a shitload of points and you're doing an okay job on red zone defense, you can throw the ball all you want from 20 to 20. As long as you're playing better red zone defense, that's all that this thing comes down to. I'm going to let Patrick Mahomes throw for 750 yards as long as he doesn't score 28 points. I win that game. If Patrick Mahomes has 650 yards and he has 3 touchdowns, I win that game. It doesn't matter how it looks. Well, some of you, it matters. This is not a BCS thing. I don't give a shit if it's 54-51 or 3-2. This comes down to winning that game Monday and keeping teams off your heels for home field. Okay? All this is pointless when you're 8-1. You miss the entire conversation as usual. You're 8-1 in the lesser conference versus the lesser quarterbacks. Are you better than Kansas City? I don't think so. I think you're right there with them. I think Kansas City is just as good as you. And in many areas, they're more complete than you. And they got a better coaching staff than you. And they've proved that 2 straight games. You're the ones that have to prove it. They don't. Even if they lose this game, they don't have to prove anything. What up, Big Sales? Chiefs going down. And the Bengals are down. And Dallas still stinks. Love you, man. Absolutely. Kansas City has nothing to prove on Monday. They just got to continue to win because you can't have a lot of losses in that conference. Because you could lose. Dude, home field advantage is so wide open still over in the AFC. It's really not open in the NFC, in my opinion, because I think Dallas are frauds. I don't know who Detroit is yet. We'll see. These next couple games for Detroit and Dallas are more important, actually, than for the Eagles. Because, in my opinion, I think the Eagles pretty much, they get through this 5-game stretch, and I said you're going 4-1. I know some of you think that I'm wishing you to lose. Do you know how many people in Philadelphia are saying you're going 2-3? The majority of them, right, Tone? I think you're winning Monday. Oh, maybe that's breaking news. I think you're winning. I think you're going 4-1. I think you're going 4-1. Dallas, Detroit, Minnesota. Okay. Okay. I got them going 3-2. Most reporters keep saying 2-3. Not me. I got 4-1. And no, I'm not trying to set you up so that I could go, you couldn't go 4-1. You're not a championship team. I'll bury that now. That's not what I'm doing. I don't play that Skip Bayless game. Okay? You're playing against really good quarterbacks coming up. By the way, that Buffalo game, I know many of you think, and you keep saying now that the Bills suck. They're going to be a desperate team. The Bills are back in it now because the Bengals are out. The Bengals and the Browns are out. Think about that. The Bengals lost Burrow and the Browns lost Watson. Those teams are done. The Bills are back in it. The Bills do suck. We'll find out. We'll find out. Okay? We will find out how great you're going to be against Stephon Diggs. There's no Stephon Diggs Monday night. Okay? We'll find out. You guys can't cover people as it is, but you're going to cover Diggs. You haven't covered anybody all year. You're the worst pass defense in the league on first downs, given and allowed. Stop acting like you are. These quarterbacks over the next 5 weeks are going to complete passes on you because everyone in the league has. That's the trend. I mean, the completion percentage is like 78% against you. And these are the Baker Mayfields of the world and the Kirk Cousins and the Sam Howells. And it's not the guys that we're talking about over on the AFC side. Okay? Yeah, Baker Mayfield was throwing to those dudes. Baker Mayfield, are you telling me that you really... So wait a minute. Here's a great point on what this guy just said about guys like Mike Evans. So what's happened to Davante Adams in Las Vegas? How come Davante Adams is not putting up big numbers? Why do you think that is? Why do you think Davante Adams is not the player you see? He's still putting decent numbers up. But why aren't you considering Davante Adams right now one of the better receivers in the league? And he is. But why? Because they got no quarterback. Ain't no Aaron Rodgers in that building. This comes down to the QB in this league today. That's why the Eagles wanting to Jalen Hurts to become more of a passing quarterback is essential to the contract. Get this, it's more essential to the contract that he signed that he becomes more of a passer, and it's a priority for them that he wins from the pocket. That's why they're going to live with the interceptions. I determined that early on. I go like this, 8 interceptions right now for Jalen Hurts. I don't think that's a lot. I'm not going to kill him on that. Why? Because the rest of the big-time arms in the league are kind of around that number too. Now, if you want to have a guy only throw the ball 20 times a game, and he has 8 picks, and he's on pace to throw for only 400 attempts, we got a problem. But if you got a guy that's going to throw the ball 600, that's what made Brady so insane last year. You know, Brady led the NFL in passing attempts, and he had, I think, less interceptions than Jalen did last year. I think he had 6. Tom Brady threw the ball 758 times or something, and I think he had 6 picks, 6 or 9, I can't remember. And he threw the ball twice as much as Hurts did. Well, here's the common denominator. Jalen's interceptions are up because Jalen's throwing the ball more. Mahomes throws the ball 600 times. Okay, he has 11, 12, 13 picks every year, right? That's kind of normal. Brady had 9 picks in 2023 on 733 attempts. That's almost 300 more attempts than Hurts had. You tell me if that's a shitty number of 9 picks. Think about that. Brady had almost 300 more attempts and had 3 picks. Or excuse me, was it? Yeah, three more picks and 300 more attempts. That means he only threw 1 interception 1% of the time. Yeah, Brady sucked. You got a guy throwing a ball almost 800 times and he has 9 picks. Are you going to take that? This guy had under 10 picks and 750 attempts. That's why when Jalen Hurts ends the season with 12 interceptions, I don't believe he'll be up there near 15. But when he ends the season at 13 interceptions, that's not going to be a crazy number when he's got 29 touchdowns. By the way, I disagree with both Rob and Tone. I think he does throw for 30 because he's going to have to. Because your running game, I don't think it's going to get better unless he runs more. You don't have the talent in the backfield. I believe DeAndre Swift's rushing numbers are going to continue to diminish because they want him healthy for the postseason. They do not want to wear that guy out. And in the NFC, what's the point? You're going to beat the Giants twice. What's the point? You're going to beat, don't you play Chicago too? You're going to beat them. You don't need to kill that guy on 25 carries. I want DeAndre Swift healthy for the postseason. That's when I'm going to run him 20 times. That's when I'm going to get his ass into the postseason. And I'm going to wear him out in the postseason. Okay? Or you play Arizona? Arizona, that might be a more interesting ball game. They got Connor back. They really don't have a wide receiver. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be very – by the way, Kyler Murray versus C.J. Stroud, I think, this weekend. That's not going to be a horrible game to watch. I think Arizona could go in there and beat them. I think Kyler Murray could go in there against that defense and beat them. Because I don't think Houston's defense is all that great in the secondary. Okay? I do. I do. Swift is getting a normal amount of carries. Actually, it's not normal amount. When he was in Detroit, I believe his average carries were around 8. And if he's getting 15, he's getting double the load that he ever got when he was in Detroit. So that's not a true statement. I think DeAndre Swift averaged around 7 or 8 carries in Detroit a year. Okay? And now if he's averaging 15, 16 carries a game, that's double the carry. That's double the workload. It's something you have to keep in mind as he goes, because he will have more carries this year in his career, if he's healthy, than any time in his career. In 2022, he averaged 7 carries per game. This year, he's averaging 15. That's double the workload. That's not even counting contact in the perimeter when it comes to his play chart, when it comes to him in the slot or him getting screen passes. He's touching the ball probably 3-1 more than he has at any time in his career. And he has had injury issues. That's something that I probably think that they're keeping an eye on. Because outside of DeAndre Swift, you have nothing. And that's why you've lost a little physicality in your run game. It's because Hurts is the physicality. Hurts, doesn't it make sense to you guys? I find this conversation crazy here a little bit. Because doesn't it, what is the number one physical play that the Philadelphia Eagles run every game for the last 3 years with Jalen Hurts? That is the number one staple that exudes physicality. What's the number one thing they do that establishes physicality? What's the number one play they run? The brotherly shove. It's not handing it to a back. It's not a power back like Derrick Henry. It's not LeGarrette Blount. It's not any of that. That's the physical part. It's the only physical part of your run game that's left. Swift's not a physical runner. Jalen is. Well, you know what? I never thought about this. Is Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson are probably the most physical football players in the NFL at the quarterback position. They are probably the most physical players at that position. Lamar Jackson's a physical specimen. He is. Hurts too. When Hurts is hurt, run game suffers. When a quarterback traditionally, and that's a quarter, if Brock Purdy hurts his ankle, that doesn't affect the 49er run game. Right? If Brock Purdy has a twisted knee, that doesn't hurt the run game in San Francisco. You know what? It's Lamar Jackson was hurt last night, right? Dual threat. You know what may come down to this whole thing for the AFC? What quarterback can make it through the season? And that may play right into the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Because you know what you may have? You may be playing against CJ Stroud at the end of the day in the Super Bowl. Highly unlikely. But you keep losing players like Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, eventually, don't you get down to Nick Foles? And don't you get down to Case Keenum? Don't you get down to that eventually? I think the biggest nightmare that the league is looking at right now, do you really want to have Case Keenum and Nick Foles for a conference championship game because you can't get these quarterbacks to the finish line and to the AFC championship game? Or Hurts even being banged. Let me tell you this. If Jalen Hurts gets hurt, okay? If Jalen Hurts gets hurt, phew, you're talking about horrific TV ratings because you have nobody on that side I give a shit about, including Dak. Do you think I want to see Jared Goff in the Super Bowl versus what? Trevor Lawrence? You want to see Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, or Lamar Jackson. Or you want to see Josh Allen or Herb. You want to see one of those guys. I do not want to see some bum thing like we saw with that 17 NFC Championship game. Case Keenum and Nick Foles. Holy shit. Got to be kidding me. Okay? No one will know who's more prepared until Monday's night game. Well, no. If I play better competition each and every single week, or better yet, let me take that back. I play better quarterbacks every week. Am I not better prepared than you? Am I not better prepared than you if I'm taking on better quarterbacks every week? You can answer it's okay. I think you're more prepared. Hey, let me ask you this. Going through Daniel Jones in the conference title game versus going through, what was it, Herbert and Burrow for Patrick Mahomes. You think that prepared Kansas City better to be behind? Trevor Lawrence and Burrow. They had won a ton of games in a playoff game, too. And Daniel Jones and Christian McCaffrey were the quarterbacks in the NFC side. Nothing the Eagles could do about that. Again, that's not an Eagle problem. They took care of business. I don't look at that. I look at it on who you played against. That's all. That's not an Eagle problem that your quarterback got killed. That's a San Francisco 49er alignment problem. Hey, Sills, quarterback got hurt. Is that an excuse? No, he should have blocked better. That's not an excuse. No, you don't. See, that's one thing here. You don't get that with me. Well, if we would have had Brock Purdy, we would have beat them. Yeah, okay, right. If I was smarter with my money, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Okay? So you guys think no knee brace. That means they run more? There were 10 design runs in that Super Bowl in the first half last year that netted 52 yards rushing. Do you think they go back to that formula? Remember, you only lost by 3. Are you going to go back to that formula that you were in that ball game close with them? Or are you going to sit back and drop back, not run the ball, and get this. Here's something to think about. If Kansas City gets 105 yards rushing and you get 70, they won the run game, which kept them and made you honest. I think they don't have to have 200 yards rushing. They just have to outrush you. Because then guess what happens? The Eagles are one-dimensional. Kansas City beats you one-dimensional already. In that second half, fourth quarter. Now, the run game set it up. The run game set the fourth quarter up. That's for sure. But that fourth quarter was pitch and catch. But granted, 158 rushing. I mean, am I wrong when I say this? That the Kansas City Chiefs have put up the most rushing yards of any pro football team in 2 years that played against a Nick Sirianni team. Am I right when I say that, Philly? Has any other team put up nearly 400 yards in rushing versus the Eagles? Kansas City has had the best rushing attack. I can't think of another team that has had better rushing numbers against you than Kansas City. I can't think of any team that's out. 158 and then 200. No, Philly, I'm talking the last 2 years. Has any team in the last 2 years had better rushing numbers, and they were 6'3" and 6'1" a clip? Has any team had more rushing yards in 2 games than what Kansas City? Kansas City must have the number 1 and number 2 rushing games against the Eagles. That's why Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to throw the ball for 300 yards against you. I think he's going to have to Monday night. Washington this last year only had 100 yards a game. They averaged almost 171 yards a game against you in 2 games. They crushed what Washington did. It's an advantage of not having Gannon this time, who was sleeping with the Cardinals. I don't think they can run on you too. I do not. I'm with you. I do not think they can run on you. Washington last year had more than 200 yards rushing on you. And 158? Maybe one of those Washington games. Since 2021, and if I'm guessing, no one, but it's a fair guess based off the trends, one may argue the Eagles' defense is more prepared. They are more prepared because of the play of Davis, his uptake in his play, and because of the addition of Carter. Absolutely. But I can't think of 2 teams or any team that has put up more numbers like 200 yards and 158. They've averaged 171 yards against you. The Chiefs. And the Chiefs were 20th in rushing. 20th. Yeah, Philly. The biggest fear on the biggest fear, Philly 500, is Mahomes in the perimeter. And as I said yesterday, you got to herd this kid. Herd him to one side of the field like Denver did and Vance Joseph. Don't let him sit back there creating passing lanes and moving around in the pocket, not setting the edge. Can I tell you this? You got to almost play him like Hurts. You got to keep him contained. If you don't set the edge on Mahomes, what a rough one. It's like watching old Aaron Rodgers play. Rodgers out in the open, man, deadly because he's so accurate. All right. My friend Tone's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Happy Wingsgiving from our friends at Hooters. Don't forget, the month of November, you get an opportunity to have great specials each and every single day, like Coors Light drafts, $2.99, 25 cents goes to local charities on every purchase. The Hooter calendars 2024 are out. I believe 9 of the girls are also featured in the calendars. And inside the calendars, guys, it's not just really good-looking Hooter iconic girls there. It's $100 in gift cards that are inside the calendars as well. And you can get those calendars at northeasthooters.com. The great specials like Military Mondays, 20% off each and every single Monday. Tuesdays, buy 10 wings, get 10 boneless free. Wing Wednesdays, 1983. The year the place was founded, man, I love seafood Sundays, the buffalo shrimp, the steamers, the stone crabs. One of the benchmarks of Hooters is the great seafood. Kids eat for free on Saturday. That's northeasthooters.com, northeasthooters.com. And when you roll in, do me a favor, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.